Hey everybody, this is Pete from MyJewelryBunch.com. Welcome back to the channel. I haven't posted a video in a couple weeks, but we're going to go ahead today and post this one. This is Design Challenge 1, and I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and come up with some creative designs for this particular stone. We're starting with just a stone. Customer brought a diamond in. It is a 7.9 millimeter princess, approximately 5.3 millimeters from table to Q-lip. So keep that in mind if you want to go ahead and do a design and post it on our Facebook page. So you can go ahead and do that if you want to follow along with the design challenge. What I'm going to do now is add in a circle, and we're going to make that dimensionally approximately size 7. And I'm going to raise the diamond up above that because that's the inner circumference. That circle represents the finger size or the inner circumference of the ring shank. Here you can see I'm going to make some changes to the diamond. Just going to modify its size to actually more accurately reflect the diamond. We're going to go back to the curve, and I am going to add a solidify modifier to it. I've already added in an extrusion, and we're going to make that a little bit bigger so we can see it and work with it. The ring shank itself, this is going to be the inner or lower part of the ring shank, so we're going to make some changes to it. I'm also going to go ahead and duplicate this later on, as you see in the video. Right now I'm just giving it a little bit of geometry. I'm going to shade it flat so it's easier to work with. I'm not sure why I'm working in somewhat of a rendered view, but we're going to go to a modeling view soon. So with that ring shank done, I am going to just kind of make sure the diamond is sitting about where I want it to sit. Now you'll see that the bottom part of the diamond is in the shank and the design, but don't worry about that. We're going to make some changes in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that ring shank, and I'm going to go into edit mode with the curve. It is still a curve object, not a model or a mesh. So we're going to actually modify the curve to adjust the position of it. And by doing that, I can move each of the points around. I can size those points up and down and make the dimension of that riser on the side of the shank a little bit more pronounced. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of looking at it, just making sure it's about where I want it. I need to make this ring a little bit wider, so I'm going to grab that center point. I'm going to hit Alt-S, and I'm going to make that top part of that ring topper a little bit wider with the Alt-S key. That's a little trick for curves that you can work with. You can also do Control-T to rotate it if you'd like. We're not going to use that in this video. And now I'm just going to bring up the ring shank to about where I want it to sit, or where I want the diamond to sit on it. And once I'm pretty happy with that, I'll just make a few more minor changes to that, making it a little bit wider here. Again, I'm working with curves, and I'm kind of doing this in a little bit of a non-destructive format at first because I want to be able to make changes to the shank. So in X-ray mode, I can see both shanks and the diamond, and that just gives me a kind of a bird's eye view of what I'm working with. Now I'm going to make some changes to the first shank that we made, and I'm going to narrow it down at the bottom. Actually, we're doing the second one here, and we always want the bottom part of the ring shank to be a little narrower so it feels more comfortable on your finger. That's something important to think about. Let's go ahead and change the original shank down to match that particular size so that they're both about the same. Now you can see I got a little indent there. We'll take care of that in a little bit. We can make changes to the perspective modeling and perspective scaling as we go forth. I'm going to narrow this ring topper down just a little bit with the Alt-S key. I'm going to do the same down here to get rid of those little indents. And then we'll just make that first circle just a little bit narrower so it fits inside, just like so. Now, if you're going to try this on your own or you want to work with this, I'm using a free add-on called Jewelcraft. It was designed by a gentleman in, I believe he's in Russia, and I've been using it for years. It works pretty good. It's constantly updated, so it does work with Blender 3.2.1 and 3.2.2, so don't be afraid to get it. I'll put a link to how to install that add-on in the description box below. Here I'm just going to add in a couple loop cuts to the outer shank so that I can work with those in a little bit. I'm going to add in a cube now. You're probably wondering what I'm going to do with this. This is where I get into the non-destructive modeling, and what I want to do is kind of open up using the Boolean, non-destructive Boolean tool to give myself a little bit of design work so I can see what the design is going to look like while I'm actually modeling it. Here I'm going to apply the non-destructive Boolean, and I'm going to hide that so that we can't see it in the modeling or rendering. I'm actually going to name it also. So I do name my cutters as I'm working with them just so I know which cutter is what. And you can see what I've done is I've cut a line through the top of the first circle, just where it is right there. You can see with the cutter showing there. Again, we're going to hide that again here in a second because we won't need it. But I'm not going to apply it right away. Not until I turn that curve into a mesh anyhow. And by changing the dimensions of my non-destructive cutter, you can see I can actually change the model while I'm working with it. That's a good way just to double check while you're working with things and make little changes. That way you're not applying changes and then using Control-Z to go back or load in a previous version and start from scratch. So now I'm going to go back to the upper or the outer part of the shank, the second curve that we added that we're using for a ring. And we are going to start working with that particular line, and I'm going to turn it into a curve. Now the reason I'm turning it into a curve is because I want to use that as a pathway for the diamonds along the side. Before I go ahead and do that, here I'm going to apply a cutter to the upper shank just so that it makes space for the princess cut diamond. With that cube selected, I can just make some changes to my ring just to make sure that's about where I want the hole to be in the top of the ring shank. I'll apply the non-destructive Boolean, and I will allow my princess cut diamond to shine through. Now we can grab this loop here and I can put it just about wherever I want. Now I'm going to make some changes to this loop. When you convert a curve into a mesh item into a curve, it does give you lots of little points to deal with, so just be aware of that. I've gone on to the next step, which is to add in the two side stones that I'll be having on this particular ring. The customer didn't ask for these princess cut diamonds. I'm just trying to give this a little more interest in it. So what I've done is I've added a princess cut diamond on either side, adding one and then marrying it to the other side. You can mirror along the X and Y using the Jewelcraft tool, and that is pretty convenient. I'm going to go ahead and add cutters to that, and we're going to apply those cutters to the ring shank so that we can see what the stone will look like when it's seated into the ring shank. I'm going to apply those directly in a destructive format because I'm not going to change those at this particular point. And with that said here, now I can go back and start looking at the original stone and its placement, adding some prongs to it. Now it's always good to add, especially on princess or fancy cut stones when you're using the Jewelcraft tool. I would recommend doing, if you're doing fancy cut stones, do one at a time. And you can change the position, the rotation, the scale of each of the prongs, its height, its depth, at the angle, the location. So go ahead and play with those, get used to those. And if you're already familiar with the Jewelcraft tool in Blender and you want to do a design like this, you already know what you're doing. So go ahead and come up with some creative design. Please post it on the Facebook page, my Jewelry Bench Facebook page, and let me see what you've got. So here you can see I'm going to go ahead and add in some diamonds. These diamonds are going to run along the perimeter of the upper ring shank. And that was the purpose of having that line on the side of the ring shank, that separate line I converted to a curve. So we're going to keep that path. I'm going to put the diamonds on there. I'm going to adjust the angle of those diamonds. Once I get the angle all set, then I'm going to mark the start and stop locations of those stones, and then we'll go ahead and increase the number of stones that we want to have in our ring or on our ring. So I'm going to jump this up to right here. I've got 24. That doesn't look so bad. I may make some changes here. With that done, I'm going to start working on this line here. I can move the line over to get those diamonds lined up correctly along the perimeter of the ring shank. And that's something you want to do. You can do by adding or editing the path that those diamonds are on. I'm going to mirror that to the other side. I'm pretty happy with both positions here. Once I've done that, I'll add in the cutters and we'll start cutting the holes for these stones. Again, if you're going to 3D print the model, it's best to have the stones cut out. And if you are modeling a ring like this particular thing, you should always have the bottom hole protrude through the bottom part of the shank. That allows cleaning of the diamonds when you go ahead and get those cut out and set, because if you have no way to clean under a diamond, it could actually dull up over time with skin and debris getting under the stone. You want to make sure it is serviceable in the future. I'm going to go ahead and start Boolean cutting out all of the cutters from the gemstone and cut those out of our ring shank. We'll do one side at a time. Unfortunately, there's no convenient way to select all of these that I've found so far. There probably is, I just haven't found it. So I'll just do one side at a time. My cutters for those little stones are all done, and you can see the holes protruding from the underside of the ring shank. With that done, we'll go ahead and add in the prongs. Now I'm going to add in shared prongs, 2 on each side of the diamond. You'll see that the end diamonds do not have 2 prongs on the bottom half, so you're going to go ahead and you're going to add in 1 extra prong and just adjust its position. Go ahead and do that for each of the bottom stones, or you can go ahead and just use the mirror tool and mirror along the X and then the Y axis to duplicate that prong. If that doesn't work, like I said, you could just add in 1 prong per any of those 4 stones, which is what I'm doing here. I'm somewhat happy with that position, but we're going to adjust this one just a little bit more. This is not going to be the final project. Actually, I'm just using this as an example for the customer to look at, to give me any ideas of something that he would like in the future. So I just want to show him some ideas. I've actually done 3 or 4 versions of this in completely different styles. So I'm going to make a cutter. What I want to have is under those side princess diamonds, I want to have something that's kind of opened up on the bottom part of the ring, or well, the upper half of the ring under those diamonds. So I'm going to make a cutter out of this particular cube that I've added, and I'm just adjusting its position. And then I'm going to go add in some geometry with some bevels, apply the rotation and scale first, and then I will go ahead and add in some interest into this because we don't want it completely squared off or sharp angles. And once I've done that, I can take that particular piece and then I can apply it as a non-destructive Boolean to the ring shank. And now you can see I've created those 2 holes under the princess diamonds. And that's just to open it up and give it a little bit of interest. There's the actual rendering of what the item is going to look like, and that's a good start. I'm going to go ahead and tweak this a little bit more off screen so that I can make some changes to it and show the customer. But again, if you want to go ahead and do a design, let me know. Again, we're working with that princess cut diamond. It is a champagne diamond, and again, 7.9 millimeters square, about 5.3 millimeters from culet to table. So I'd like to see what you guys come up with. So again, this is a design challenge that I'm asking you to participate in. I'm going to go ahead and do a few more versions for the customer, and we'll see how this works out. And if you made it to this point in the video, thanks for watching the whole video. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. And again, I will put links to the other videos that I have where you can download and install the Jewelcraft add-on for Blender. There's updated versions to each of the newer versions or updated versions of Blender, so keep that in mind. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. And if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. If you want to get notified every time I upload a new video, please hit that notification bell, and you'll see every time I upload a new video. Have a great weekend, and take care.